Look at me and tell me what you see. I look at you and tell you what I feel. Look at me and tell me what you see. I look at you and tell you what.
This was unexpected. I had forgotten there was a Samurai Jack game that came out. And it's been a while since I actually delved into the Samurai Jack series. It's been a long time since I've watched it. I need to go back and watch it. So playing this game was a fresh experience for me to put me back into the world of something that I used to watch when I was a kid. And seeing games like this, I figured I would see games like this back on the PS2. And this is gonna sound very weird for everybody, but this feels like a really good PS2 game on a PS4. I know that sounds crazy, but hear me out. It reminds me of the show so much. I mean, of course, it's based around the show. Now, at what point, since I'm kind of late on my Samurai Jack knowledge, and I know there's a final season, which I need to go back and watch because I saw bits and pieces. This game fits somewhere in the canonical timeline, and I don't know where. But playing the game, I didn't even feel bothered not knowing where it fit in. Why? Because the combat was fun, leveling up was fun, facing the enemies of the past. I do remember these enemy types from the show, seeing characters that I did recognize from the show, and overall feeling like I'm playing a Samurai Jack animated movie. This is how games felt back on the PS2 when they were based on licenses. And Samurai Jack has simple yet intricate combat system with a multitude of different weapons, multitude of throwables, and every enemy type perfectly matches the scenario that you're caught in, using different weapons. Like, do you choose to use a bow? Do you choose to use a shuriken? Do you choose to use a knife? There is so many different ways of dispatching enemies that it becomes fun. Now, the difficulty of these enemies varies, because I played the whole game through Samurai mode. I streamed it for about 7.5 hours, and the difficulty, I put it on medium, and it would just spike up and down, especially with certain boss battles. And you know what? Even though it will be jarring, because you will be very unprepared, the game, it's very challenging even without these difficulty spikes. These difficulty spikes happen far few in between, but when they happen, they happen. But that's why you find a lot of loot and currency, because you can buy items, buy ways to bring yourself back, buy throwable items, sell jewels, but you need to be careful in selling jewels because jewels are intricate and also leveling up your skills as Jack. Training your weapons, you can pay to increase the weapons you use. So what is your preferred weapon? The sword, the hammer, the club, the bow. You can upgrade the weapons and train yourself to make the attacks stronger and unlock different skills for them. And also, repairing items only goes to your other weapons, not your magic sword. Your sword is your main weapon. That's the weapon you will predominantly level up first. But every enemy type requires a different weapon. There is a multitude of enemy types that will force you to use different items, different skill sets, and different equipped. Because this game also runs on a familiar engine to PS2 players of the Devil May Cry series. You get a performance rank at the end of each level that also increase depending on how fast you did the level. What's your grade? Did you use any items? Did you go down? How many times you went down? Very familiar to players of third-person behind-the-camera action fighting games, beat 'em up romps. That's why you get a multitude of upgrades. And to go back, though, certain sections of the game, though, will require you to possibly farm and level up. It's hard to tell whether it's the difficulty spike or are you vastly unprepared for the challenge ahead. And when you get your rank, it doesn't change, which is a good thing, because I know certain level games would take your rank away. But going through every familiar location that you once saw on TV, with the voice acting, though, rest in peace to Mako. He's obviously not voicing Aku in this, but the guy who played Aku, in my opinion, I don't know if this is the guy that voices him currently or not, but I enjoyed his performance. He reminds me of original Aku. And in one section, I saw old villains that I remember from the show, like these monkey-looking warriors. It reminded me of some Planet of the Apes type shit. But make no mistake, these suckers are difficult. And this is later on in the game where now I'm going to talk about the game's flaws. I spoke about its positives, but this is a very fun nostalgia trip, but it's flawed. But the thing is, your nostalgia for the game and you playing it and the fun you will get kind of will outweigh it, but I still have to talk about it. It's a budget title. That is clear as day. But they work with what they had. Certain areas, like my favorite section of the game is the graveyard, but the graveyard has performance issues in certain sections. It's bad because this is the part of the game that teaches you how to fight against hordes of enemies, like a lot of enemies at once, and use a multitude of your weapons. And you need to switch to your weapons on the fly to defeat these guys, since they're undead. This is one of the enemy types. But once you get the hang of it, and once you get through it, you do feel like you've accomplished once you get through. Getting to the final levels, it is old school difficulty at best. It's a freaking tower. And what I mean, you know, every game that has a tower which you have to go up, it is enemy run after enemy run after enemy run. And I think that's why the game encourages you to go back and collect more jewels, more resources, and sell and fight different enemies to level up, because you're going to need it for the final 2 stages of the game. I mean, even on Samurai difficulty, this was a pain in the ass. And I mean, some of the bosses during my live stream were giving me trouble, even though I thought I was prepared, which I know I am, because you know when I play games like this, I'm very good with my item management. But Jesus Christ, these enemies threw me off guard. But then when I started looking into it, you know, going back into the mindset of this is how old games I used to play back then were, I was able to get back into the flow of things. This game really can have you be fast on your feet, especially when it comes to the boss battles. The boss battles do offer a fair challenge between fighting the boss and fighting little enemy sub-bosses in between, which you're going to need to do that because you can use them to your advantage by increasing your area of attack, which every weapon in the game, when you use a different weapon type, they have an AoE attack, which you get that AoE by killing enemies and filling up your fire meter, which I forgot the in-game name of it, that's why I'm just going to call it the fire meter. So you need to mix and match your attacks. I think the one thing this game could have benefited from, if you drew a little bit more inspiration from Devil May Cry, which this is clearly inspired by, especially old school DMC, we should have had a ranking meter to help encourage us increase our output, because you have to pause in between a lot of the combat, which helps you reorient yourself. It's not very fluent. It's fluent enough, though. Especially when you're in close quarters, you can slice a lot of enemies, but it's in the bigger arenas where you really need to dart around and jump around, and you will lose a little bit of momentum. But overall, the experience, and I paid only like $16 for this game, and you know what? For that experience, it's about 12 plus hours if you did everything I've described, or I recommend you do, which is leveling up ahead of time. So that will increase your playtime hours, and especially if you're trying to complete it, then you can actually push it to 13. And for $16, that's pretty good. The game entertained me. I'm still playing it right now. I still have to finish it for stream, which might just be a video instead, since I'm already at the final part. This game really reignited my love for Samurai Jack, and I plan to rewatch the show wherever I can. If I can find a website, or if it's on one of the streaming platforms, I'm going to sit through and watch it. Now, with its flaws, especially in certain levels, like I said, it's gonna vary how much do you love Samurai Jack and how much are you willing to go through the game. So there's not much I can say about it. If you can get it for cheap on any platform, I'd say go for it. This game was made for the fans of Samurai Jack, and if you're looking to get into Samurai Jack and you like video games, then you know what? Hopefully this can act as a gateway entry to get you all into something I used to grow up as a kid. So this is Emperor John Kill 3D Gaming. Be sure to follow, like, subscribe, and look out for my next few videos. And if you heard a horn, a freaking truck went by my house. Alright guys, see you later.